Hey there guys, welcome back to the Doug and Racecraft YouTube channel. On this episode, I tell you about all my poor financial decisions. So, after an unforeseen turn of events, I will have a lot more free time to make videos for the next coming months, for the foreseeable future anyways. So, with that being said, every week for at least the next 2 months, I'm going to upload a video once a week, every week. So if you guys have any comments or questions, things you'd like to see done, more you'd like to see with a certain project, please feel free to leave a comment down below. So let me start off by saying that this build in particular is a very middle of the road build. It's not the cheapest way you can do it, but it's also not the most expensive way you can do it. I got a used engine, used transmission, but I spent the money in the right places. So without further ado, let's get into the financials of it. Okay, start my list here, my spreadsheet of all the money that I spent on this. Let me start off by saying this isn't a flex. I'm not flexing on the haters, telling them how much money I have in this car. This is just to get you in the ballpark of what you could successfully do a reliable swap for. My word isn't fact, so there's going to be tons of people who will say, oh, I did it for fucking half that much, but I'm not going to argue with you, you probably did. So let me start off by saying that I didn't do this the easiest way, the cheapest way, because if I would have done that, I would have never done it to this. Me doing the swap in this vehicle in particular is what made it cost as much as it did. Not that it costs a lot, but depending upon who you ask. Don't ask my girlfriend. The whole reason I did a Coyote swap in the first place was because I wanted something reliable, something that I could get into the car, drive anywhere I wanted to, and not have to worry about it breaking down, which is what I feel happens a lot with small blocks, which is what this car originally came with. I wanted anybody that I knew to be able to get in this car, fire it up, and drive it away, never have to worry about it, just put gas in it, and that's it. So, with all that being said, let's get into it. So this part of the car obviously is where most of the money was spent. I also spent money past what you would consider to be part of the swap to make it the car that I've always wanted this car to be. So it's got a back half with the 4-link in it, and then I did some extracurricular things that you wouldn't have to do if you were gonna Coyote swap your car. So starting off with the engine as a whole, I got a complete engine off eBay from a 2016 F-150. I had 90,000 miles on it, bought it back in March, paid $2,900 for it. That's with tax, and that was delivered to where I used to work. This is not a Boss 302 engine, obviously. It just has the Boss appearance package, so it's got the Boss manifold with the engine covers. The Boss manifold I got $200 from a friend of mine, and then the injector covers I got from Derek, who had that white Cobra. Did some horse trading around, but these cost $179 to buy new. Things that I did to the inside of the motor that you can't see. I did Mustang timing components, Mustang camshafts, phasers, oil pump, everything. I also did oil pump gears. The oil pump gears I bought used from a friend of mine. Their boundary oil pump gears came from a motor that had low miles, so I knew what the life of it and everything was. That's something I do not recommend buying used. Definitely buy new on parts like that. I did phaser bolts, the bolts that hold the phasers to the cams. Those are one-time use, those are torque to yield, so you should buy new ones. I bought ARPs. Those cost $74. I also did Boss 302 timing chains and timing components. The timing chains were $82. I did not do secondary chains, and the tensioners were $132 for both primary tensioners and secondary tensioners. Those aren't things that have to be done, but there's things that I highly recommend doing if you plan on revving the motor to what these motors are capable of. I had this shifting at 7,500 RPMs, and I've tagged the limiter my fair share of times, so, you know, being an idiot. So if that's something that you're gonna do, highly recommend doing some of that stuff. At bare minimum, do oil pump gears. I also did crank sprocket from Ford Performance, that was $50. I bought that when it first came out 3 years ago, and it's been sitting on my desk ever since. Some things that are this vehicle specific, the exhaust. The headers I made out of first gen Mustang exhaust manifolds. Those are tubular, they're an 1 3/4 tube, and they have really nice flanges. I bought the mild steel bends that I made them out of, the collectors, and I had roughly $300 in those, buying the tubes, the factory manifolds, and everything like that. So I had $300 in those. The rest of the exhaust system, full 3-inch stainless, X-pipe that I made out of bends, and then made my own tailpipes, and I got X-Force quad tip exhaust tips with Cook's Racing mufflers. Altogether, that was roughly $800. I got Canton's front sump oil pan with their pickup tube and their dipstick tube. At the time, the oil pan was $330. Now it's almost $800, and they're made to order. So luckily I got it before it went up in price, and I had just been hanging on to it. The pickup tube is $150, and then the dipstick tube is $50. I did new spark plugs. They are NGK 6509s. A set of those was $80. Next, that brings us into the fuel system. The fuel system is started with a fuel cell that I already had, made all the lines and fittings and everything on my own. I bought all that stuff from Summit. It is not sponsored by Summit or anything, just where I got it from. Dash 8 feed, dash 6 return. Use the factory rails. They're LU47 injectors. Those injectors are $247 to buy new. Another thing I recommend buying new versus used. The fuel system, air motive regulator with the boost reference for future use. I overbuilt the fuel system because my old Mustang, the orange S550 that I had, I blew that up because I leaned down on fuel. So now everything that I build has more fuel system than it'll ever need. So it has a Holley 12-890 fuel pump. That was $457. Along with the pre and post filters that Holley recommends. Those are $110 a piece. Paired with the aluminum AN line with the stainless steel braided PTFE, where it's flex line from the cell to the lines on the body, and then from the regulator to the fuel rail. Like I said, stock fuel rail. Altogether, I spent $1,640 on the fuel system. Again, that's not the bare minimum that you need for a fuel system. You can do a fuel system for much less than that if you're planning on staying NA. I knew I'd be pushing the limits of the fuel system eventually, so I overdid that now. The engine harness I bought from Tasca Ford for $180. The control pack I bought from Summit as well. The control pack was for a Gen 2 Mustang engine with the 6RD transmission. That was $2,100 roughly. The starter I bought new from Summit Racing. It was just a normal modular Ford starter because all the modular motors in the Coyotes use the same starter. Unless they are auto start stop for Gen 3s, those are different. That was $180. All the bolts, fittings and everything like that, for the flywheel, for the converter, everything like that will be included in the final price. Radiator and fans were $250. Made my own custom cold air intake with Canon filter, elbow and everything like that. Altogether, on this part of the car, I spent $11,814. Keep in mind that wasn't spent all at once. That was spent over the period of the last 5 years. So it took some saving up to get to this point, but here we are. So now that we went through the engine part of it, we'll go into the drivetrain and the rear end for the car. Okay, so as I said, I'm gonna lump the brakes in with everything else. Starting off with the drivetrain. The drive shaft I made by a local drive shaft shop. The rear end is a Ford 9-inch. Housing came from a 1972 Mustang, which doesn't really matter because I ended up narrowing it anyways. The center section I have for it is a nodular iron case with 411 gears and a traction lock Ford factory rear end, or differential rather. I also added a fill and drain plug, 9-inch big Ford bearing ends, the axles that are cut to length from Speedway Motors, wheel studs, lug nuts, wheels, and a yoke for the rear end, which is a 1350 U-joint for that drive shaft that I had made. Altogether, that was $2,475. Next part's the transmission. Which is used from a Gen 2 two-wheel drive 6R80 truck. Trans cooler, which is a Durale. The cooler fittings, and then the special fitting that you need for the 6R80 from Power by the Hour. And lines that I use for those, and I'll include the rebuild kit, but this, obviously, you don't have to do this if you're gonna do a swap on your own. Altogether, that was $2,345. Most of that cost coming from the rebuild kit. The rebuild kit was a Stage 2 XZD clutch set with a billet intermediate shaft that was $1,400. The brakes, I have dual wheel master assemblies with the pedals to go along with those. Brake line flaring tool, the brake line that I used, which was the nickel copper stuff, all the fittings and everything for that. The front brake kit, which is a 11-inch rotor with geometric calipers, same thing in the rear, 11-inch rotors with geometric calipers. Altogether, that was $845. Last part of it is the frame. The frame material that I used for the front frame rails was 2.5 by 3.5, 3/16 wall tubing. That's to the firewall, and then for the firewall down to the back of the car, that was 2.5 by 2.5, 3/16 wall until the rear axle, and then the rest of that back was 1/8 wall instead of 3/16 to try and save a little bit of weight. That material I bought before COVID, that was $200. The front coilovers and control arms. The front coilovers are QA1s. The control arms are Speedway Motors tubular control arms to match the Speedway Motors Mustang 2 front suspension kit. Still Mustang 2 front suspension in the front of this, but the kit is for a first gen Mustang, which has wider frame rails, about 3 inches wider, to obviously accommodate this massive engine. Flaming River steering rack, along with a custom universal style D shaft for the steering shaft, the U-joints associated with those. In the rear, it is a Competition Engineering 4-link kit with Competition Engineering coilovers and then QA1 springs to go on those coilovers. Altogether, that was $2,920, paired with the total from the engine side of it, which was $11,814, to give you a grand total of $20,389. So, obviously not the cheapest. It's no LS swap, you know, even like I said, with this being the middle of the line, you can obviously get a lot more expensive than that, but I've also seen people do Coyote swaps for, you know, under $5,000, depending upon where you can find the stuff and, you know, how budget you're willing to go with everything. I wanted this, like I said, to be pretty reliable, so there were some things that I spared no expense at, but then there's a lot of things that I tried to save a couple dollars here and there. Just some words of wisdom: try not to cut corners wherever you can, just because usually, from my personal experience, it ends up costing you more in the end anyways, because you have to pay to do it the cheap way, and then when you inevitably mess that up, you have to pay to do it the right way after that again anyways. So just do it right the first time, spend the money where you need to, save where you can. But that is going to do it for this video. As I said before, in the coming weeks, I'm going to be doing these videos a lot more religiously. Going to be working on my Coyote Swap King Cobra, the 82 GT, and then my dad's 82 GT, which I have a video coming on next week. I'm going to be uploading every Sunday, so do watch out for those videos if you do subscribe. One thing I'd like to say before I end this video off, I don't do these videos for the fame, I don't do it for the clout, I don't do it for the, you know, couple dollars that I make from it every month now. Growing up, I've been doing this for roughly 10 years now. I've had this car for, you know, about that long. So over the course of the last 10 years, I've had a lot of people tell me, don't do that, you're just wasting your time, you'll never be able to get it done. I do these videos to people that don't know how to do stuff. I want to show you everything that I know how to do, and make no mistake, I don't know how to do everything, but I will learn how to do everything. And that's why this car kind of is my quote unquote swan song, is because this is the display of my abilities to the best of my ability. And there's things that I did on this a couple years ago that I have since redone because I didn't like the way that I did it the first time. I want to show you how to do everything the best way that I know how, and I want to learn from you guys too. So let me be the one to tell you, don't listen to everybody that tells you that you can do stuff. Ask the right questions, find the right people, and just get out there and do it. So hopefully I motivate you and inspire you to work on your own things. But with all that being said, if these videos do help you, please consider subscribing. It really does help. I really do want to grow the channel so I can help as many people as I possibly can. Like the video if you like the video. Leave a comment if you have any comments, questions. That's going to do it for this video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Y'all take care now.